push the content out. And the content has always been our primary concern. So that's sort of what we use all the tools for, is just other ways to get the information out there. And you know, our website and our sort of web presence reaches, you guys were talking about this earlier, our web presence reaches a much, much wider audience than the people that can come to the museum itself. I think it's, you know, we have so many hundreds of thousands of visitors a year. Our website gets millions and millions and millions of visitors a year. A webcast like the solar eclipse, one event for 1 hour on the web gets 2 million visitors, you know. That's very exciting to us. And I always find the web numbers a little bit weird, and they're, you know, they're hard to quantify sometimes. So, you know, we try to take that stuff with a grain of salt as well. You know, what's a success, what's a failure? If you reach 500 people in a YouTube video, that's 500 people. They may not have watched the whole video. They may have like only watched the first 30 seconds or whatever. But you're, you know, I think you have to sort of be careful how you look at those numbers, because they can be good and bad. So I'm going to let Alex talk a little bit about Twitter and some of our other sites.
I'm Alex. I've been at the exploratorium for less than a year. I started in March, and they were kind of dealing with the same thing. I think a lot of us are trying to figure out what social media is and how best to engage with it. And, you know, I started Twitter as an experiment, pretty tentatively at first, and then it became a regular thing where I thought really giving an update, you know, one update a day or, you know, 10 a day, but any update is better than none. And I started pointing a lot to activities that we were doing. For instance, we have this ice stories thing going on now. There are 10 or so scientists in Antarctica, and through the ice stories blog, they are sending in dispatches, video dispatches, and they're sending in photos, and they're in the field right now. And what we're offering people to do is interact with those scientists while they're on the ground in real time. And it's a blog format. You can ask questions to the scientists, and the scientists can respond to you, which is a really special thing. And I think that's really kind of part of the exploratorium's mission, is to make science available to the public, and to just help facilitate education, and to encourage people to explore and to engage in science. So, you know, I started out with Twitter. Every time a new dispatch was going up, I was like immediately sending a link on Twitter and saying, go check it out. And then I realized, you know, there are so many different piggybacking different websites to Twitter right now, because it's the tech-savvy people that are really into it. So then you can get you know, a Twitter feed, and actually, instead of me doing actually a manual entry, and now I have a Twitter feed, you know, hooked up to our Twitter account, so that every time the ice stories updates, it goes straight to the Twitter account, so I could be out of the office and we're still updating. And that, I guess, is kind of, you need to have, I guess it's, since we have a blog-like format of a certain site like this one, it is getting updated daily, and so that's special. Not everybody's website, you don't have that. Not everyone has that ability. So I guess I do encourage blogging when possible. So that's one thing that's been
This is pretty exciting. This is just a little sweet moment that we had today. So Sophia, these scientists are doing all of this media production on top of their research work. And as some of you may know, like when you get to go down to Antarctica, you work 16 hours a day, as many days a week as you can possibly, because there's a limited amount of time that they can be down there, right? So this woman, Sophia, she came to us. We trained her as a media correspondent. She's I think a postdoc on a project that is studying ice sheet dynamics. And, you know, so complicated science, really tough stuff. Her grandfather, so it says, "Hi Sophia, my name's Troy. I'm a nurse here at the Paradise Valley Estates. It's 10:30 in the morning and I'm with your grandfather. He's still awake and he said that he missed your grandmother, he couldn't sleep. So we brought out the computer so that he could look up your site, look interested to hear your voice and see your video." Like, I mean, that's really amazing, you know, it's a wonderful thing. And so it's a nice mix too, like the personal, like people's kids or grandparents or whoever being like, "Hey, I can see you down in Antarctica," to very specific questions to what are probably the most popular questions. How many penguins are there? What kind? You know, is it cold there? You know what I mean? Like from kids, you get a really wide variety of sort of general questions, but then you get scientists writing to other scientists, you get people writing to their family members. It's very interesting. We used a WordPress, just so people know, we used WordPress for this particular project, which is the first time we used a commercial application, but it was right for what we needed at the time. So. Does anyone have any questions? Yeah.
I mean, you shared that last story. I was curious, what impact has it had on the scientists that go out there?
Yeah.
I mean, you talk about moments like that,
Yeah.
you know, in interacting with other scientists.
Well,
so what perspective can you share with this?
Yeah, it's very interesting. Of course, most scientists, you know, have a hard time communicating their work to the public, and especially hard science, like how do you talk about neutrinos to the public? How do you talk about particle physics or cosmology or you know, any of these sort of really tough science, the hard science things. So what we try to do is find some kind of middle ground. And what our scientist correspondents have been saying is like, this is so awesome because I get to share my work. This thing I care about that I spend all my time doing, you know, pulling up sediment cores from under the ice in Antarctica. It's kind of a weird thing. But then when you get into it, you're like, oh, wow, there's this piece of, you know, dirt that's 30 million years old, and they have all these little flags in it saying, like, this is from this period of time, and here's some microbes that are still, you know, existing, or fossil, you know, so they, I think our feedback from the scientists has been really positive, and probably the hardest thing for them is making the time to do it, and learning the media, and learning how to communicate their ideas. We find that the postdocs and graduate students have the most sort of quickest kind of adaptability to it, whereas the PIs, the older scientists, are a little like less so. But we give them different ways to do it. You know, they can do it in an interview format where the graduate student interviews their principal investigator, or we also try to give them other options. Like a lot of these teams, for instance, are in really remote locations. At McMurdo Station, you have all the IT stuff that you could want, aside from everybody competing for bandwidth, which is a problem. But you could, if you're out on the ice, like out literally on the ice sheet, maybe you can't use video. So maybe you call in on an Iridium satellite phone and we do a phone interview, or we do some kind of audio dispatch that way. So we try to give them different options. Yeah, go ahead.
Have you got any feedback from people who are using these as teaching resources in their classrooms?
Yes, we have, and actually very exciting, just today we got some video questions. This is the first time for us. I mean, we've had a few we've tried to do projects like this where we interact with classrooms and, you know, try to do a live connection or have them write in questions over email, and then we try to answer them during our shows or things like that. But today we got video questions that kids were making in their classroom that they've sent to us, and now we'll be able to put them into our program, you know, and have it answered at the same time. They sent us little .mov, they sent QuickTime files.
Did you ask for it?
What's that?
Did you ask for it, or did they just do it on their own?
Well, we did some outreach. We did some outreach and tried to contact schools and say, hey, we're doing this project. Are you guys studying penguins, or are you studying, you know, any climate change, any of the topics that might be covered here? And so some of them are responding that way. But for instance, another thing we're going to try is we're going to do an iChat, a three-way. We'll be talking to Antarctica over a video con. A school in England is going to iChat in to us, and we're going to try. What's going to happen? They're going to be able to talk through our connection to Antarctica. The kids in school in England will be able to talk, and we'll be able to. Our host will sort of moderate it. So.
Do the scientists actually answer the really simple questions too? Like, is it
Yeah.
like they do?
I mean, it kind of depends on the personality. Some scientists are not so extroverted, you know, some are, you know, it's definitely a mixture. Some are very taciturn, you know. So.
That's right. One other question.
Yeah.
And do this when they have the scientist-to-scientist conversations? Is it always one way where the external scientists are asking the scientists on the ground questions, or are the scientists on the ground in Antarctica also seeking feedback or learning things from